Declaration of Independence that we have over there. It's a Dunlop version. There was 200 printed at the
events that occurred here. If you were living here in the 18th century, let's say the 1750s, 1760s, you were living in the largest city in British America. This is Pennsylvania. One of the Philadelphia, being in the British colony of Pennsylvania, was the largest city. And it was one of the 13 British colonies. And most of the people who lived here probably would have been loyal to the king. Do you know who the King of England was, the ruler of British America? Yeah.
King George III.
Very good, King George III. Right, but he needed money. He had just won, in the 1760s, he had just won a war against France, and he needed money. So who do you think he taxed to raise money? Yes.
The 13 colonies.
He taxed the 13 colonies, the people who lived here. But he taxed us without something.
Representation.
Very good. Excellent. Student of history here. King George III taxed the American. He had his parliament create laws to tax the Americans here without their representation in parliament, which angered many people. So what did he tax? Something we drank. It was very important.
The beer.
Yeah. Yes. There was a tax on tea, and there was a protest on the tax on tea up in the Boston area. In the Massachusetts colony, they dumped oil. And it's very old. Before the United States was created, this was called the State House of Pennsylvania. This was the head of the colonial government of Pennsylvania, founded by William Penn. And this is a courtroom, obviously. And right in here, they held trials, and the jury boxes represented over here, here, and here. So if you were on trial in the 1750s and 1760s, in that period, you probably would have been standing right around here in the prisoner's dock. Doesn't it look like I'm guilty? I'm in a prisoner's dock. I'm standing trial, literally. But as British subjects, we had the right to a trial by jury at times, and a right to be thought of as innocent until proven guilty. Right, so we had enjoyed certain legal rights. But 11 years after that, the government was created here too, all in one room. This is how it looked. When the Congress came here, the war had just started. The Congress came here. They needed a general. One of the men seated here was to be the general. Can you guess who he was? George Washington, right. So that we think they sat like this. The northern colonies here, the middle colonies here, and the southern colonies here. So we think this is around the place where the Virginia table was. Now George Washington sat right around here. He had a uniform. And in this room they created the army. And John Adams from Massachusetts, he gets up. This is in June of 1775, 1 month after they got here. He nominates George Washington to be the new general of the new army. Everybody votes for him. And he goes up north and starts to fight the British. He doesn't come back here for a long time. So this was the war room where we fought England from. They made all sorts of decisions. They created the Navy, the Continental Navy, the Marine Corps here, the Army. Many decisions. Who are the generals? How do we fight the British? But also, if we can, how can we make peace with King George III? It wasn't to be, though. Now it's 1776. And one of the reasons people started talking about independence was because of this book, which was published in Philadelphia, just a couple blocks east of here. And all the men in the room read this book. And this book said we should be independent. We should be free from England. Yeah, I know it's hard to see. Did anybody know the name of this book? Yes. Very good. Thomas Paine's Common Sense. You can get it on a Kindle for like 99 cents or free. But they all read the book back then. This is how the book must have, something like this, it looked like this. And then they started talking about independence openly in this room. And states, not colonies, states. They then appoint a committee of 5 men to write down the causes for why they should be free and independent states, United States. And John Adams is on the committee, Roger Sherman from Connecticut, Robert Livingston from New York, Benjamin Franklin from Pennsylvania. But the man who drafts it and writes most of it, practically all of it, is a 33-year-old Virginian. This is his original walking stick. Who would have sat right about here? Who was the man who wrote the Declaration of Independence? Thomas Jefferson, right. He actually drafts it a couple blocks away, brings it into the room. The men of the committee and the others argue, they debate about it. Now it's July 2nd, 1776. And on that day, the Congress votes for Richard Henry Lee's resolution to become free and independent states, United States of America. Do we celebrate Independence Day on July 2nd, though? What day? July 4th, because it takes 2 more days for the Declaration itself to get into its final form. And on July 4th, it's ready. So that in this room, on July 4th, 1776, the Congress approves the Declaration of Independence. And this is how it looked when it was printed that night in Philadelphia. There's only 26 left in the world. We have one of them if you want to see it. Just after the tour. It's in the West Wing. And well, have you seen other pictures of the Declaration of Independence? Is there something missing from the bottom?
Signature.
Very good, the signatures. Well, they decided to make it more official. So someone wrote it down on parchment, and on August 2nd, the following month, August 2nd, 1776, the men signed in this room the Declaration of Independence. So this is the one with the signatures. They get up, walk up in front of John Hancock, dip their quills into the inkstand and sign the Declaration of Independence. One of the greatest documents ever written about human rights and democracy. That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They're endowed by the Creator with certain rights, certain inalienable rights. What are those rights? Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then Jefferson goes on to write, we can't get these rights under the current King of Great Britain.